Healthy eating starts in the kitchen. Hello, my name is Winnie Chen, and I am a registered dietitian. Today, I'd like to talk about a puree diet with a pudding thick liquid. This type of diet is designed mostly for people who has the most impaired eating abilities. They are unable to tolerate ground or mechanical soft diet, and they have no ability to chew or very little ability to chew whatsoever. And then secondly is that they are unable to safely swallow liquid, whether it's a nectar thick or a honey thick. So people like that, they are on a pudding thick, which means that they are at the highest risk for aspiration. Before I drop on this subject, I just wanted, pointed out that people uh, with this kind of diet has the most severe form of impairment in terms of eating. So I just want to, share some of the signs that you need to look for. If your client demonstrates any of these, it requires further evaluation. So let's look at some of these signs that we need to pay attention here. Okay, so what are you looking at right now is you can see that there's difficulty managing the solid and also the difficulty managing the liquid. So basically in looking at this, you notice that a person with difficulty eating, managing the solid usually takes a long time, or a lot of times your food fell off. And one of the things I always emphasize is, does this person cough, or does this person has a wet voice after swallowing, or does this person have some food still in their mouth even after they swallow? It just a sign that they maybe have trouble managing the solid. Okay. Now look at the how about the liquid part? Okay. So again, the coughing, the wet voice after swallow is definitely a red flag, right? And also, when they eat and food fill out, that is also a red flag. And also, it takes a long time for them to eat. What I mean by long time is sometimes people take 45 to an hour to eat. So these are also just signs that demonstrate this person has trouble, eating. Okay. Some other things like nasal regurgitation, okay, inability to maintain a good position, right? Or sometimes unable to maintain a good head position. Also are the signs that show that this person has trouble eating. All right. So now that I have just, show you some of the red flag that you need to look for when somebody's demonstrating difficult swallowing or chewing. Now I'm ready to, talk about this pudding thick liquid and puree diet. So one of the things that different from a person who is on a puree diet, thin liquid, is that the puree thin liquid, you don't really need to worry so much about the consistency of the liquid of the puree. If you can puree the food and then the person just is able to swallow fine, because it does not require this person to do any chewing. But if a person who is on a puree diet, pudding thick, what you need to remember is that the consistency, whether it's solid food or liquid, they all need to look like a pudding thick liquid. So in here, I have a demonstration. These two items are pretty similar. This one, they all puree, right? But notice that in here, this is a little bit thinner. Now, this is not pudding thick. This is thinner, okay? This is pudding, okay? So this definitely is thicker, okay? It's definitely thicker. What the easiest way when you say, how thick is a pudding thick? Well, first of all the food, like I said, solid, liquid, all need to be pudding thick. And you have to imagine what pudding thick look like. This is puree, but this is not pudding thick. So this is one thing you really need to remember. And another thing you need to remember is that, when someone is on a pudding thick liquid diet, basically you cannot drink it. You have to use a spoon to eat it. So when you drink water, it needs to be fed with a spoon, not be fed by with a cup. So that's, I think that's a little trick for you to remember. People are asking about what about applesauce? Applesauce. This is applesauce. Applesauce again. It's a block. So it is again. You cannot use straw to eat it. You have to use a spoon to eat it. So to me, that is a good consistency. But things like this, like some kind of sauce, this is, if you puree things that's too thin, this is not a good texture. So let's do a little share screen to look at a meal for a puree pudding thick diet and to see if this is appropriate or not. So in here, if you're looking at it, okay, so we're looking at this is probably puree meat. So that, to me, that is okay. This looks like some kind of puree carrots. To me, that is okay. Notice this is mashed tomato. To me, that looks a little bit too thin because again, if it's mashed potato, it should form a bolus, almost more like the puree meat right here. It looks to me that it's a little bit runny. Looking at this might be fruit. To me, that looks like a liquid. This is milk. This is some kind of maybe green vegetable. Again, just being looking at it, this is puree, but this is not pudding thick. So if a client is on a puree pudding thick, all these things, your sauce, your milk, and even vegetables, sweet potato, mashed potato, they all need to be more formed like a bolus, like this puree meat right over there. So to me, these need to be a little bit thicker. Okay. So now when it comes to thick and liquid, there's different types. There's what we call the nectar thick, which is a little bit thicker than the water. And just you think about nectar juice. That's how thick a little bit. And then you come to the like honey, where it leaves some traces on the spoon. So like here, to me, this is more like a little bit more like a honey thick. Now with the pudding thick, again, you have to eat it with a spoon, not with a straw. So I have to so that's really the very important difference you have to remember. Now when we do puree, the food, or also we want to make it thicken. Let's talk a little bit about the equipment. So first of all, you want to puree your food, you really need to have a good blender. A good blender makes a world difference. What I have found is sometimes when people use a very inexpensive form of equipment, they don't blend it right, especially things that's very stringy, such as, for example, corn. It doesn't blend that well. If you have a good blender, it does its job. But if you don't have it, then you need to avoid things that has husk in it. It just doesn't blend as well. So now when you want to puree, you also wanted to make sure that you add liquid to it. Now, again, I always say that don't add more liquid than you have to. Do a little bit at a time, because when you add too much liquid, then it becomes too runny. Now, there's different type of liquid. I always say that if you want your client to gain weight, your liquid could be your milk, it could be evaporated milk, but if your client has trouble digesting milk, if this person is a lactose intolerant, what you can do is you can use broth, and then you can also add olive oil or healthy oil to it to increase the calories here. Now, obviously, with juice, with fruit, you cannot puree with broth. Then you maybe could puree with juice. But again, a little bit at a time. Now, in terms of your liquid consistency, it's pudding thick, right? So you need to thicken it if it's necessary, especially for your, with your fruit or your vegetables. Now, if you need to be, a little bit, if you need to be thicken it, you have different options. Obviously, you can buy what they call the thicken. This is available in in drugstores. There's actually two other ways that you can thicken it, and that is you can use a mashed potato flakes. Those dry mashed potato flake works well as a thickener. And then also rice cereal, those baby rice cereals, those things also act as a thickener as well. So if you don't have these, those are two other options for you to use. Okay, so this is just a little synopsis or that summarize a person who's on a puree, protein thick liquid diet. Remember, this means that the food, the liquid, all need to be pudding-like. Think about what is pudding and think about how this food needs to be fed by a spoon and not by a straw or with a cup. All right, I hope this video helped and see you next time.